Hey everyone, hope you're having another great week. I have a simple question for you. When would you like to retire? This is a question I'm sure all of us have thought about at some point. We're going to dive into this topic today, so stay tuned.
Welcome to the Passive Income MD podcast, where we talk about creating your ideal life through multiple streams of income. If you enjoy hearing about this stuff, make sure to hit subscribe. Now let's get on with the show.
Okay, hope you're all doing really well out there, that you feel like you're spending your time how you want, or at least trying to enjoy as much of it as possible. I don't know about you, but as I get older, as birthdays come and go by, I start feeling like time is limited. And I don't feel like rushed, like it's happening right away, but I definitely did get that sensation that life is short. I see some crazy things happen around me. Everyone there working in the hospital, you've seen crazy things happen. And I think more than anyone out there, physicians and doctors know how fickle and how volatile or how things can change in the blink of an eye. So I know many of you are thinking forward to that day and looking forward to it, that day when you retire. And so I started this podcast with a question: when would you like to retire? Now, if you're in your 40s or under 40, actually, there's probably a good chance that your answer is something like this. You want to retire in your early 60s, maybe even in your 50s. Now, here's the problem, though. Most doctors don't retire when they want to. I mean, recent survey data, this was in Medscape, it showed that doctors under 40, they're hopeful about retiring in the early 60s, but many in their 50s and 60s right now expect to work into their 70s. So what's happening here? So it shows me that a lot of doctors probably want to retire early, but there's something that causes them not to be able to do that. Now, before we go into this further, I want to let you know where some of this data is coming from. There's this national survey that I actually look at every single year of over 7,000 full-time physicians. I know that's not a lot when we have 1 million of them out there potentially, but still, I think it's a pretty decent sample size of 7,300 physicians across 29 medical specialties. It ran from October 24th through January 25th. And just so you know, the margin of error was about 1.15%, if that means anything to you. This isn't just anecdotal evidence. They've actually got solid statistics behind this. And here's what the data showed. 50% of physicians under 40 say they want to retire before their mid-60s. And I think it's probably many of us, there's a few of you out there that think like this. Nearly half of physicians, though, in their 50s and 60s right now, they expect now to work at least into their late 60s or even 70s. And actually, 42% of physicians in their early 60s say they would expect to retire in their 70s sometime. So what's the deal here? Like, how do we make sense of this? Like, why does early retirement become such an important thing for young doctors, or they feel like it's so possible? But in some ways, it feels so unreachable for those that are already further along in their careers. Now, let's start talking about why doctors want to retire early. Like, why are more and more doctors hoping to retire early? I mean, I think I know the short answer. It's just life. They want more out of life these days. And what I mean by that is that a lot of physicians, doctors they're probably waking up to the reality somewhat that medicine can't or should consume all of them, that their whole life is about being a doctor. They want time back. They want control back. They want some of their life back. And I think we've all felt it in some ways, whether you're dealing with these EMR clicks, you're dealing with back-to-back 10-minute appointments, or you're feeling some administrative burden or overload. You're taking that home with you. And for some of us, we're just feeling that the weight of that slow erosion of autonomy and purpose in medicine. I think we all got into medicine to help people. I believe that. But yes, the system hasn't always helped us out, and it gets in the way of that. And so I actually think it's no surprise, and we all know this, that physicians are dreaming of getting out sooner rather than later. And of course, there's more to it than just burnout. I think for most people, it's just this sensation or this want of freedom, of control. And what is that freedom for? I think many of us want to spend more time with our families. We want to travel. We want to coach our kids. Some of us want to volunteer, or you want to start a business or try something different. And I know when people hear this, sometimes they're like, oh, doctors don't want to work. I don't think that's it. I think we want the option not to, or to work. That's the difference. But this is where it gets interesting. Even though so many of us want to retire early, most of us just can't. And it's not because we're not smart or intelligent or hardworking or ambitious. I think we all know we are. I think many of us are set up in a system that makes it somewhat difficult for this. I think it's because we're actually part of a system that's really not set up to help us make this happen. And let's break down a few of these reasons why, and maybe you'll understand a little better. Number one, there's student debt. I mean, these days we all know the amount of student debt that people are graduating with is going up and up. I remember back when I was in medical school, people were talking about 200,000 and 300,000, and that seemed like a lot. And now I hear numbers like $400,000 or $500,000 in debt. And obviously that is basically having a mortgage coming out. That's a major financial anchor when you're just starting out. And so that kind of, you start so far behind that I know many doctors, they celebrate once they hit that zero net worth. And I think it's really funny when they do that. Not funny in the sense it's haha, but funny and very interesting that physicians celebrate when they get to zero net worth. And that's because we're already starting so far behind when it comes to student debt. Hey everyone, this is Peter Kim. I've got some exciting news for those of you thinking about taking your career beyond clinical medicine. PIMD Con 2025 is officially happening this September 25th through 27th in Newport Beach, California. Now, this isn't your typical conference. It's designed specifically for physicians like you, those who are exploring side hustles, thinking about starting a business, or wanting to learn how to invest in passive real estate. Now, at PIMD Con, you'll hear from top experts, investors, and entrepreneurs who've been in your shoes and are ready to share what works. Now, we built this event with you in mind, with tailored tracks focusing on real estate investing as well as entrepreneurship. So whether you're just starting out or looking to scale, there's something here for you. And if you can't join us in person, we've made it easy for you to participate virtually from anywhere. Now, if you've been thinking about creating more freedom in your life, financially or professionally or time, now this is your chance to take the next step. So head over to PIMDcon.com to grab your ticket. I hope to see you in Newport Beach. It's going to be an incredible weekend of learning, connection, and inspiration. Number two, I would say like lifestyle inflation. I mean, we start making good money, of course, later than most people out there. But before we know it, we've kind of increased our entire lifestyle. We've upgraded everything, whether it's the home, the cars, the travel, whatever it is. So you're on this like treadmill, this hamster wheel, whatever it is, and you have to keep earning more and more just to keep up. So it makes it more difficult to save and invest for the future. Next, I think we just don't get a lot of financial planning. Like we're taught medicine. We spend a lot of our time on that. And we don't spend a lot of our time on understanding how to set ourselves up for the future, how to be financially smart, how to be financially savvy. I mean, I think most people don't know what they actually need to retire. And if they do, they don't know how to get there. And so what people end up doing is they become reliant completely on their clinical income for their day-to-day. I've even written posts on this before, how many doctors end up living paycheck to paycheck. And it's very easy for that to happen. I mean, 100% of your income is tied to showing up, seeing patients. People haven't set up these other income streams. And so when they stop working or stop showing up, they stop earning. And oftentimes when you take vacation, it's like a double whammy. You don't get paid and you're also not making income from your practice. So it's like a double whammy. And that can really make you feel trapped. And then the last one, actually, I think a lot of people don't retire when they want because they just worry that they're not sure what they're going to do in retirement. There's a fear of change there. We're doctors and all of our identities are tied up in that. What if we retire? What does that mean for us? What's our purpose? What are we going to do day to day? Is there something else that I need to step into? And so many people just stay on that hamster wheel because it's the familiar. That's what they know. And so many people put so much weight on that word retirement. And so I've really thought about shifting the way we think about even just that term. To me, it doesn't mean that you're never going to work again. I mean, first of all, there are multiple types of retirement. There's the ones where the traditional, where you work hard and get to 65 and you drop off a cliff and you don't work anymore. You just sit at home or on a beach. Then there's other types of retirement where you slowly, downgrade your clinical time over time to a place where it's sustainable for you. That's what I consider gradual retirement. And of course, there's like that early retirement where you try to make a lot of your income up front and then you stop working and you figure out ways to supplement your income as you go, draw from your investments, and hopefully it lasts as long as you need it to. And for me, just personally, I'll never retire. I'll always be doing something. And to me, it means just having that freedom to do what you want to do. That to me is true retirement, whether it's cut back to part-time. You may work less, you may work more, you may ramp it up, you may go down, you might start a side business, you may just volunteer. Whatever it is, you have ultimate option and freedom. And I think ultimately that's what retirement is for me. And that's what I think most people are looking for. So when I talk to people about it, they're like, okay, that's exactly what I want. How can I make that happen? And if you've been part of our community long enough, you know what my answer is. My answer is passive and scalable income. What that means is that income that can grow over time without putting additional work in. It may feel like in the beginning where there's not a lot of impact, but it can grow over time and compound and eventually get to the place where it can replace your clinical income, or at least a big part of it. That can be through real estate investing. It could be through buying and starting businesses. It can be creating products or making some really smart investments. All of these things add up to give you these multiple streams of income that can give you options at the end of the day. And I know that a lot of physicians these days just don't feel like they have options. But I've seen what happens when people figure this out. When they get started slowly and they build it up, and then those options are there. I find what happens is oftentimes the joy comes back in medicine. They get to practice because they want to. They build their careers in a way that's sustainable and enjoyable for them. To me, that's what benefits not just us as physicians, but that to me benefits everyone in society as well. When you want a happy, balanced doctor who is there and present for you because they want to be there. Now, there is one thing that I did want to mention in the survey. I thought this was interesting, and I did want to mention this. Not everyone, though, who continues working, by the way, is doing it because they're forced to. And I think this is validated by some of the data actually that they showed in the survey. They showed that not everyone who continues working later in life is doing so because they're forced to. And when a lot of those doctors answered why they plan to practice into their mid and upper 60s and 70s, whatever it is, it wasn't because of money, it was because of purpose. Like 62% of people said that they still feel like they have more to contribute as a physician. And that is, I think, incredible. Yes, a good portion otherwise said that they didn't think that they had enough saved, so they didn't know. But I think it's still cool to see when people are there financially, they stay because they want to contribute and serve. So if I were able to talk to those people who weren't sure if they were able to retire or hadn't even thought about it, I would basically give them 3 action steps. And I think this might be helpful for our community. Number 1, you got to get clarity. You got to know what you want. When you want to retire, at least put a flag there, and you're going to work towards that. You're going to have choice there. But what do you want that to look like? What does your ideal life look like? How are you going to spend your time? You probably heard that saying, clarity is power. And I think it is, because you'll know what you're running towards. Number 2, build a plan. The one thing that's really tough is when people don't even know what it means to retire. How much money do they need? How much income do they need to live the life they want without working? What's their target? I actually think one of the toughest situations would be for someone to keep working even though they didn't need to because they thought they did, meaning that they had already hit their goals, hit those milestones, had the freedom, but didn't even know they had it. And I think a lot of physicians actually end up in that situation. And of course, according to the book, Die with Zero, so many of us actually die at the peak of our net worth, meaning that we die with so much money in the bank that we never got to use. We put in hours to make it and get it, and we never even get to use it. So we could have made changes earlier in our life when we were healthy, we had our family around, and we just didn't even know it. So building that plan, figuring out how to generate passive income, researching, listening, educating, all of that stuff is really, really important. And the last step is simply just to start small. Like, you don't need to go all in. Like, you're not going to make all those changes tomorrow. You're not going to win everything tomorrow. Maybe this is the year that you buy your first real estate deal. Maybe you invest in your first syndication. Maybe this is the year you find a mentor. You join a community. You show up to a conference like PIMD Con. Every single small step, I promise you, builds momentum. And that is what eventually leads to freedom. So let's not let that be anyone in our community, meaning that there's a doctor out there who wants to retire early or make changes and isn't able to because of poor planning or because of financial decisions that they could have made. Our goal and our mission at PIMD is to help people plan for that future, get people talking about it, surround ourselves with a community of people who are like-minded, who have those same goals, and can ultimately live life on their own terms. And in case if there's any way that you can think of that we can support you, just let us know. Look forward to talking again soon. Thanks, everyone.
Enjoy the show? Let me know by dropping a review in the podcast app you're listening to us in. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit subscribe. Join thousands of physicians who are also on this journey to creating their ideal lives through multiple streams of income. Learn more at our website, passiveincomemd.com. Thanks again for allowing me to be a part of your journey. See you next time.